We are gathered here today in our thousands in the beautiful civic square of Scotland's biggest city. And we are gathered here for one simple purpose. And that purpose is to demand the right to choose a better future for our country.
It's been, what, 3 years since the EU referendum came and went? And so too has it been 3 years since the SNP obtained their mandate. The mandate, of course, that they love to talk about, as they falsely label it a cast iron mandate, or words to that effect. You know, the mandate that said that Scotland should have a right to hold a second independence referendum if there was circumstantial change, such as being taken out of Europe against our quote-unquote will. And as the cringe that was on display on the SNP's Facebook yesterday showcased, with their bullshit regarding Happy No Brexit Day, they too are well aware that Scotland hasn't been taken out of Europe against its will, nor has the UK left the European Union. Now all the anti-democratic wankers down in Westminster are equally to blame for the relentless attempt to overturn the referendum result, and that goes for the SNP too. But the difference between the SNP and all the rest of them is that despite the SNP's claim that they wish to see Brexit stopped immediately, they effectively needed to occur in order to constitute the legal basis for any future second independence referendum to be held. Without Brexit, there isn't any circumstantial change. Scotland won't be taken out of Europe against its will, and indeed if Brexit stopped completely, then nothing at all really will have changed since 2014.
We are gathered here to demand the right to choose an independent future for Scotland. My friends, make no mistake, the general election that we face now on December the 12th is the most important election for Scotland in our lifetimes.
In actual fact, this is one of those occurrences where they shoot themselves in the foot, albeit it's probably one that will go relatively unnoticed. Point being, of course, that they love to parrot the never-ending claim that they've got a mandate, as I previously referred to. So with that under their control, it shouldn't really matter how many votes that they get, or how little votes that they get in the upcoming election. A minority or a majority is not going to change the fact that they have a mandate. The reality of the matter is they are absolutely desperate to retain and potentially obtain more power in Scotland so they can continue to do what they're doing. This has got nothing to do with the mandate, because they know themselves that they haven't met the criteria for said mandate. But yet the never-ending claims of having a mandate, this very same mandate that is justifying standing there on stage today as well as every other day, this mandate that they claim is cast iron, this mandate that should mean it should not matter whatsoever how many or how little seats they obtain. So quite how they come to the conclusion that the upcoming general election is one of the most important in our history is quite beyond me.
Our country is on the line, and there is no doubt whatsoever that Scotland stands at a crossroads moment. Down one path is a future that will be dictated to us by the likes of Boris Johnson. A future where tax cuts for the wealthiest take priority over our people.
Our people. Don't even fucking go there. This coming from the thin-lipped wanker, of course, who let child poverty levels continuously increase for the majority of this year alone, as well as poverty in general, and so too food bank usage. And instead of doing anything about it, she pointed the finger at Westminster and blamed austerity. All this inequality right on your doorstep, while remaining completely silent as you continue to redistribute our wealth into countries like Zambia and Malawi under this climate justice scheme that you signed us all up to without our consent. but yet sat in Holyrood, shrugging your fucking shoulders when it came to suggestions to pull money from elsewhere in the budget, to which you were continuously dismissive and defensive, claiming all of our money was already allocated elsewhere. But a tax cut for the rich. Pfft. The tearjerker of the day, is it?
That we want. Down that road is a future where Scotland is ripped out of our European family of nations.
You know, who the fuck refers to the European Union, or any union for that matter, as a family of nations? Unironically. What fucking planet is this woman on? Why is it that globalists such as Tony Blair are so desperate for us to remain in Europe? Why is it that the likes of Guy Verhofstadt and Angela Merkel constantly refer to the removal of sovereignty? And why is it that the direction the European Union is blatantly going to be taking in the foreseeable future, something that Helmet Head never ever seems to mention? Well, if the claims that anybody can come here and be just as Scottish as native Scots, the disdain for nationalism, as well as proclaiming that the independence quote-unquote movement is now internationalist, progressive and outward looking, pushing globalisation as well as global citizenship, etc., sustainable developments into the education system, as well as every single policy and amendment that she pushes out, as well as drooling out those thin lips about how wonderful and cohesive non-existent diversity is for Scotland. Non-existent because currently, without devolved immigration power, she's not able to completely and utterly fuck up this country demographically. If all of the aforementioned weren't clues enough in and of themselves, then just think about the fact that it would be a lot more difficult to enforce globalisation on 28 individual sovereign dependent nations across the European continent and elsewhere than it would be in a bloc of 28 states. Armed forces, their right to veto, and above all else their sovereignty, given away.
A future where the UK turns in on itself, a future of a hostile environment for migrants. That is not the Scotland that we want. People here today, every corner of our country, but I want you to give me a shout right now if you are a new Scot. If you come to this country from elsewhere in Europe or across the world,
Here we go again. A new Scot. Give me fucking strength.
me a shout.
This unbearable pondering on display here. But again, as I have showcased before on many occasions in regards to what the SNP intend to do in the future, if they have their way, just think about what she's saying right now. And think about the claims she makes on a regular basis that anybody can come here and be just as Scottish as anybody else. The complete and utter removal of any notion that native Scots exist at all. The native population of Scotland doesn't exist anymore according to these people, and instead has been replaced with new Scots. The plan to decolonise Scotland as a whole. Anybody can come here and be just as Scottish as anybody that's lived here for generations. This nation doesn't belong to one group of people. Instead, it belongs to all. All that really does, effectively, is erode our claim to this land. All done by design. You fucking Scots. Just get real.
The message to you today is that you are welcome here. The Scotland we seek is open, welcoming, diverse and inclusive, and no Tory is ever going to be allowed to change that.
No Tory is going to be able to change that. Oh no, can't be having that. This obsession with fucking diversity.
And down that Boris Johnson path lies a future where Boris Johnson has his strings pulled by Donald Trump. We accept country, that future, our National Health Service, workers' rights,
Our National Health Service is devolved. How in the fuck can Donald Trump and Boris Johnson do anything with the Scottish National Health Service as a part of any negotiations when it's devolved.
All of that is on the line. That is not the Scotland that we want. There is, my friends, a much better alternative. Alternative is not a UK Labour. Can't even make up its mind where it stands on the question of Brexit. The days when Scotland has to make do with a choice of the lesser of two evils, these days must come to...
Again, irrelevant. Nicola Sturgeon would be pointing to these things right about now if the referendum result had been different in 2016, or if they had been successful in any of their attempts to see a people's vote, or if they had been successful in revoking Article 50 completely, or in Helmet Head's case, been successful in preventing Article 50 ever being triggered to begin with. Do you think we would be having these conversations? It's all very well and good to paint this picture of how awful Westminster is and how better off we would not be in the European Union as a not independent country. But the reality of the matter is, you'd be quite content sticking with Westminster. You'd be quite content settling for the lesser of two evils. You'd be quite content allowing these people to dictate your future if they had dictated it in the way that you'd wished they had first time round. You'd have been content with a people's vote. You would have been quite content with revoking Article 50 completely. You would have been quite content with the referendum result being Remain in the first place. All of which would have been at the result of English voters swaying the decision.
End. And if you permit me, given that I've been speaking about Boris Johnson and Jeremy Corbyn, to go off at a bit of a tangent, let me to both of them. Why are you so scared to have real debates in this election? And my message and my challenge is this: I'll debate either of you, I will debate both of you, anytime, any place. Why Scotland should not be independent.
It's not in the European Union, you thin-lit fuck. And second of all, for the 15th time probably in this video alone, you have not got a mandate to justify standing up there and calling for a second referendum. It's funny because one of these debates would transpire, considering you've rewritten history, you've bullshitted for 3 years solid, continuing to bullshit right now.
My friends, the better alternative, the much better alternative for our country is to take our future into our hands.
And of course, bearing in mind of course the ability for Scotland to determine its own future rests on the mandate criteria being met, unless of course they are granted permission for a Bakshi referendum from somewhere. And as things currently stand, I don't see why anybody would grant them permission.
Become an independent country. A country that invests in our people, that invests in our
people. Our people.
Invests in lifting children out of poverty, not in a hard Brexit, not in trident weapons of mass destruction. An independent country that is open, that is welcoming, that is diverse, that can build a better future, not just for us here today and this generation of Scots.
Oh, the diversity. Oh, how many times is she going to mention diversity in the one speech?
Better future for all the generations who come after us. That, my friends, is the prize. And that prize is within our touching distance. We must seize that prize. And when that, fueled by your energy and your passion, and let me just before I finish tell you that your energy and your passion fuels me every single day, and I am so...
Why you keep lying to them, you thin-lipped dickhead.
So grateful to each and every one of you for that. What happens when our country, North, then together we can get on with the job that it is all about, of building that better, more prosperous, fairer.
Another clear win for the SNP to bring it even closer still. And how exactly will it bring it even closer still? Brexit hasn't happened, we've not been taken out of Europe, there hasn't been any circumstantial change, therefore you've got no mandate. You still won't have a mandate even if you obtain more votes than you currently do have. And in the event that your calls to Westminster to grant you permission for a second independence referendum are met with rejection, it conveniently removes any blame and redirects it down south